Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Warhammer Meta Chasers. This is your weekly live tournament rundown show for all the biggest and best Warhammer 40,000 tournaments happening over the weekend. I'm delighted to introduce Adam Camilleri.
G'day.
And Dustin Henshaw.
Hello, everyone.
And my name is Paul Murphy. We had to skip last week. Missed y'all. I was gone the week before. And definitely been missing y'all. I'm anxious to get back into it and see what's happening with our finger on the pulse of the meta. Thump, 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 thump.
Well, it's more rapid right now, man. It's faster than that. Come on.
We got three great events to talk about right now. We got the South Coast Super Major, the BFS, Battle for Salvation Team Championships, and the Battle to End Alzheimer's. Love it when we can highlight some of these events too, especially when they got a good cause. Let's go ahead and jump on into it. The South Coast Super Major. This is from Havant, England. 251 players battling over 8 rounds. What are we going to see there, Dustin?
In the Imperial Civ action, there are 2 Imperial Agents, 6 Sisters of Battle, 11 Custodes, 6 Admech, 14 Astra Militarum, 4 Grey Knights, and 7 Imperial Knights. Space Marines, there's 23 Adeptus Astartes, 11 Dark Angels, 3 Space Wolves, 12 Blood Angels, 7 Black Templar, 4 Death Watch. Chaos, there's 8 Chaos Space Marines, 60 Suns, 8 Death Guard, 16 World Eaters, 7 Emperor's Children, 9 Demons, and 6 Chaos Knights. Xenos, there's 15 Necrons, 7 Orcs, 17 Tau, 11 Votan. Hive Mind, there's 11 Tyranids, and 6 Genestealer Cult. Wow. Eldari, there's 5 Drukhari and 7 Eldari. Meaning the faction podium is, of course, Adeptus Astartes topping off with 23. But then Tau in second with 17, and World Eaters in third with 16. And then Necrons at 15 behind them, but whatever. And Astra Militarum behind them with 14. But what is with the Tau and World Eaters just topping? Those are 2 very different factions to be on the podium here.
But perfect to fight each other, you know.
Yes.
Depending on.
I can definitely speak to Tau being on the up and up at the moment in the metagame. Definitely one of the powerhouse factions. Yeah, the Twin Lance has invigorated them and given them a dynamic piece to go along with, you know, some of their more aggressive play patterns, which is what they're wielding a lot of at the moment, mostly in Moncar. Got the detachment breakdown we'll be going through in a moment. But Moncar being that, you know, I am essentially fast gun, and we know this edition fast gun is good, and that has proven itself to be much the way in modus operandi that will get you good results for Tau. In addition to that, the Twin Lance just injected a whole new life and early game play patterns for the Tau Empire, meaning that they're not like, you know, limp noodling their way into turns 1 and 2 when they have Moncar power, you know, avoiding a lot of the downsides of screening units, jailing plays, stuff like that. The Twin Lance just solves all those problems for you and then stays ahead of your opponent trying to shut them down with all those reactive moves and nonsense. Can we just delete this unit? Can we just like just drop punt it out of the game? Let's just get rid of it. I'm not a fan.
I don't know. I think it's cool to have powerful units and also ones that give that kind of dynamic shift in a slightly different way that the army plays. It does take, we see at times to adapt like this. You know, we talk about the meta. It's a living, breathing ecosystem. If it truly becomes that dominant, some folks will figure out a way to crack it. And the World Eaters may be the answer to that.
Yeah, so the World Eaters is an interesting one. Of course, we did have about 6 to 9 months ago, we had the revamp of the LGT UKTC, terrain maps, which did make them a lot better for aggressive armies. What we did see in the initial flux of that is that aggressive Astartes were definitely on the rise, but everyone was pivoting away from all their gun builds and that Iron Hand-esque build that's kind of made its way through the entire edition over to things like the Templars, who played similarly but with better aggressive assets, and stuff like Blood Angels. We've seen a tick back towards those things. Of course, Victory Scar being injected in the game saw us heading back towards that. Here's my 3 to 4 good holes plus a Victrix, or you know, essentially what the Templars were doing. But once again, better than what the Templars were doing, who were doing it better than what the Ultramarines were doing, who were doing it better than what the Iron Hands were doing it, or sorry, the Iron Hands detachment, whatever it was. And now, you know, full freaking circle. World Eaters just seem to be a place that a lot of Chaos super faction players are happy to ride out the end of the edition on, as in like, I've tried all this, I've tried brewing, I've tried cooking. We got 3 months, 4 months left in the edition. Let's windmill slam some World Eaters, have some fun.
We're seeing also like World Eaters with Predators and stuff in them for those last cannons. Granted, you know, they don't hit quite as well, but sometimes
I haven't seen Predators World Eaters. That's crazy.
Yeah,
he means just sorry. I think you mean just like a couple of good shooting assets.
Oh, shooting assets, blast cannons. You know,
okay, yeah.
seen
There's
a bunch of
ubiquitous
shots.
predator, like noise marines in a rhino is a predator, right? That's
correct. Yeah, exactly right. It has that predator effect, just in a different, wearing a different.
I got
hat.
you.
A mega razorback, kind
Mega
of
razorback. We haven't seen
situation.
razorbacks in a while. Speaking
of we've seen guns in a dynamic world eaters list that have kind of helped them play all different angles against all different comers, and maybe that's this terrain format like you were talking about also contributes to maybe the two things giving them those players an advantage.
Yeah, it's interesting because if I was a chaos super faction player and I was dead set on playing an aggressive, infantry army, I'd be playing Hurons, Marauders, Creations of Bile, Renegade Raiders. I wouldn't be going to World Eaters. So I'm assuming there's something that they know that I don't. Like, I'm assuming there's literally something that they know about their meta that I'm unaware of.
Assault is good.
It's really good. But anyway, jumping down to the Tau Empire detachment breakdown. So this is all 17 armies listed for detachment they are taking. No surprises here. 10 of 17 are taking Mont Card. Then we have 4 playing Retaliation Cadre, 2 playing Crit Hunting Pack, absolute lads, and then 1 experimental prototype Cadre. Anything surprising here?
Not
really.
No, not even a little bit.
I am a huge fan of Retcad at the moment. I actually like Retcad more than Montcar, but it does have Montcar is the even performer for singles play, but Retcad just seems like the sexy one. It's the drop deep strike within 6 inches, get nice and close and blow them up. In all intents and purposes, the ideology of Montcar, as in like the killing strike, the way Retcad plays more like how I think that should be, rather than it's just like I just get to assault and shoot with all my stuff. Yeah.
You trying to fluff the Tau detachments, Adam?
Don't break my immersion here, Dustin.
Okay, sorry, my bad. I would never dream of trying to break your immersion, Adam. I would never dream of it. Immersion is very important in this game. Sorry, I apologize.
Anyway, one of the top ranked players in the globe is attending here. There's actually a couple, but most of them are playing pretty unimaginative Necrons and or other nonsense. But we have you. Look, you get your if you are dead set on getting ITC ranking, play what's good. And guess what's been good? Necrons has been pretty freaking good.
Very, very forgiving. Yep.
Yeah. So Reese Knight is currently ranked 8th in the ITC in the world and is playing Eldari Aspect Host with some different stuff. Well, not different units, but in different configurations than we would expect. He's got Lycus, Fuegan, and Jane Zar for the 3-pack of characters, 2x5 Corsair Void Weavers, a Wave Serpent, 3x5 Dark Reapers, and then we go with 10 Fire Dragons and
bringing them back.
Yeah, man. And then the ubiquitous 3x5 Rangers, 2x5 Swooping Hawks, 3x5 Warp Spiders. And yeah, that is a pretty interesting, compact little thing there. Well, it's weird to say Serpent is feeling compact, but it is.
The one Wave Serpent is interesting because, you get to pivot with what goes in there. And he's got 2 really solid options, but actually technically 3 really solid options to throw in there.
Yeah, in this one, it's interesting to see whether I'd be keen to know if Reese is planning to play the Banshees as an aggressive thing or as a reactive, getting respect counter assault piece that hold backs a lot of its opponents. Good stuff.
Based on the opponent, really, what they're fighting. Fighting against heavy melee pressure, keep them on the board, and this is not my don't come near me or I will kill you in close combat, or stay away from me and I'll shoot you. So
what I also like is that unless you are literally playing against big knights or multiple Catan, I don't believe Fuegan always joins the Fire Dragons. I don't think I don't think he needs to most of the time. Of course, you got a Catan to kill. Don't miss. Put Fuegan in there. You don't miss. So you got to guarantee your shot. But against everything else, Fuegan just being a get back up on death 2+ save, very annoying. Unit that more likely than not pops a transport for you.
He'll kill scouts. He'll kill. I mean, he'll kill just about anything he goes up against. That's one of those utility units. For transport.
He seems like a good piece, a good solo piece, and it helps go even deeper into the MSU aspect, and then he can kind of Voltron it up, Jane Zar with the Banshees, Fire Dragons with the what Lycus, of course, and kind of just get the jobs done when you need to. Like, I do like having this little, in singles play specifically, I do like having these levers to pull where like, oh god, it's 3 Catan. a lot of aspect host lists just have to go wide and hope they scoop up all your opponent's utility units and then stress out the activations of the Catan. And on some missions that works, on some missions that doesn't work so well, especially the ones where you have to hold, middle objectives to score points because your home isn't worth anything, like hidden supplies. But whereas this one is just like, you can't really push me with Catan quickly because I probably have upside to get 2 in a turn between Lycus focusing out 1 with all the MSU pieces combining and then grenading and stuff like that to mostly mitigate one of them, and then the one-shot kill of the Fire Dragons plus Fuegan. So I like having the things to get respect, because I find that's something that's happening to Aspect Host at the moment. It's getting a bit disrespected where people are just like, I'm just going to put durable stuff on the line and shove. And
battle focus is still one of the most brutal backbreaking things in the game that can happen. I know, granted, people this late in the game with it are kind of prepared for it to exist, but sometimes you just can't play around it. And this does have a lot of power pieces that I think can capitalize on. I like this build.
I like this build a lot as well. I'm not as sold on the 10 Banshees as I am the 10 Fly Dragons. Just having that thing to just make people pause with their big durable stuff, I think is really good. The Banshees, I really want to know a bit more about.
I think this list plays differently no matter who the opponent, who they're playing against, because of what they can put in the Wave Serpent. Like, I think they can play this list several different ways, and that is almost like a sideboard going into several rounds of the game.
Well, yeah, funnily enough, this seems like a list that's stuck in 2025, which was, only 4 months ago, but it does feel like it's last year's list. And this is one of the best players in the world playing last year's list. So obviously either extremely confident in his expertise with the pieces, or is one step ahead of the meta and thinking
this is what you got painted. It's like,
yeah, that could be it. That could be it too. All right, time to pick some winners, gents. Let's roll a Canadian dice. In which case, of course, Dustin gets the 5 and the 6.
Obviously,
I'll be the 1 and the 2. It is a 6. It is a stone cold maple leaf.
You roll the Canadian die. Obviously, it's going to be a 6.
It's calling.
It is a beautiful. What is that? 2023 maple leaf right there. Beautiful dice. All right, Dustin, what would you like?
I'm going to take a step to Stardies.
Yeah, go with the numbers. Paul, what about yourself?
That's solid. Numbers I think are. Yeah, I want to say Tau, but I'm going to go Necrons.
Yeah, I was either going Necrons or the Tau, whichever one you didn't pick.
That makes sense.
I'll take the Tau.
All right. And I didn't mention, but chat, how y'all doing this evening? Thanks for hanging out with us. And if you're joining us on the podcast or in the videos later, know we have an amazing chat community. Come hang out with us. Sometimes we get folks that are playing in some of these events, sounding off what they're taking. Sometimes, we get a little help with the rules or something from the chat as well. And occasionally we play some cool little games in the chat. So anyway, come join us live 9 p.m. Eastern if it's not already on your calendar to do so. Next event we're going to be talking about is the BFS Battle for Salvation Team Champs. This is in West Nyack, New York. That's here in the U.S. You know that because it's New York and not Old York. Do y'all call it Old York over there? Let me know.
We just call it
Middle-aged York. Yeah.
Middle-aged York.
Over the hill York.
Original York.
Prime York. These are all places in the world.
Yeah.
192 players in 24 teams of 8. Planning for 5 rounds of competition. In a team event, you're never going to see a codex represented more than one time on a team. So anything that hits that like third or half, close to half for teams present, we consider that to be what these players think are strong picks going into this weekend. So what are we going to see?
In the Imperial Surfaction, there are 6 Sisters of Battle, 16 Custodes. So there's the first one over the halfway mark. 5 AdMech, 12 Astral Militaire, right at the halfway mark with 24 teams. 1 Grey Knight, 1 single hero of a Grey Knight, 6 Imperial Knights, Space Marines, there's 10 Adeptus Astartes, 2 Dark Angels, 2 Space Wolves, 3 Blood Angels, and 2 Black Templar. Chaos, there's 11 Chaos Space Marines, 12 T-Suns, 7 Death Guards, 6 World Eaters, 2 Emperor's Children, 6 Demons, and 9 Chaos Knights. Xenos, there's 19 Necrons, so only 5 teams didn't take a Necron. 7 Orcs, 16 Tau, 10 Votan. Then Hive Mind, there's 9 Tyranids, 3 G's to the cult. And Eldari, there's 8 Drukhari and 4 Eldari. Meaning the faction podium is tactically total Astartes, tying Necrons at 19. So only 5 teams didn't take a Space Marine or a Necron. Tau and Custodes right behind them with 16. So again, only 8 teams not taking either of those. Astro Military with 12, Chaos Space Marines at 11, and then Votan and Thousand Suns bringing up the rear there with 10. Thousand Suns having a pretty decent show with this event.
They're very aggressive. They can be anyway. I mean, especially in the team list, where you get a little agency about what you play and where you pick your tables and stuff. But what is that? 14, 15 Awakened Dynasties up there at the top spot?
Gotta be.
No, it actually isn't. It's much more Shatterstar Arsenal.
Okay.
Which is interesting.
Okay.
That was the second.
We have the Necron's detachment breakdown coming up, and I don't know if it's people in Australia and many other parts of the world, like Europe, who agree with my take, which is that in teams, Awakened Dynasty is far better than Star Shatter. But the Americans seem to be hell-bent on Star Shatter and Custodes. Custodes is one that maybe because we down under always play on WTC terrain, it doesn't get as much agency. It's still quite strong. It doesn't give up many points. It's usually a very safe list, but we're not as crazy for it as it seems the people in the United States are.
16 seems, I mean, as the resident USA person here, I'll say, because 16 Custodes.
Spokesperson for the nation, Paul Murphy.
Seems a little high.
Yeah, it's a lot, man. That 16 is way more than I thought. I thought it'd be more like the 12 mark, give or take. But you know what? It is just a very safe list to have in an APAC. It's very easy for it to dodge the 2 or 3 things that will legitimately put it in the dirt. And then it just scraps for points with a good upside, because anybody can still just swing and miss on Custodes against a high roll on 4+ inbounds. We see best players in the world do it all the time. Hell, John Lennon happened to him at WCW 2 years ago versus Folger. Best players in the world can still swing and miss on Custodes, and then they just start rolling downhill against you.
Mm-hmm.
There are some. Was there any omissions here? No, there was no omissions here. But there was. Actually, it's going to sound wild, but I thought the Astartes numbers were actually low. We're actually on the low side.
Just comparatively, I mean,
yeah.
Having that many, 5 teams not bring
any
flavor of Marines is actually pretty crazy.
I would assume
percentage-wise.
I would have assumed it would be right on the 22, 23 mark. Maybe one team didn't bring them. But yeah, almost always I would have assumed it's pretty much everybody.
How does that occur? Let's think about how that occurs for a second. I think it occurs when you can't make what you think the ultimate list is. Like either let's pretend it's Victrix Guard or something like that. You can't make that list. And so you just, instead of bringing a weaker version of that, you opt for another faction.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. But I mean, I think it's also one of the most common armies out there too, right? Because
especially in there's Warhammer.
Warhammer. Everybody has a Space Marine army. Even if you hate Space Marines, you own a Space Marine army, or at least have access to one. And they're almost always one of the picks that's going to be this, one of the 8 strongest factions you can bring. Almost always.
Well, true, but also in an 8-player team, you're actually seeing less take all comers meta picks, and you are seeing some anti-meta, more teams opt for more anti-meta stuff.
And not only that, but we always talk about the faction specialists that really can beef up the teams, because they'll bring stuff that is not common in the meta, especially in singles. So people will be ready to deal with it in teams. And then if they have those few bad matchups, they can avoid them and then get their big scores in the matchups that they want to get into.
And let's also just fall back to said, if you're at a third of the army list here, then that's considered that weekend is considered a strong faction, and there's 8 Drukhari players.
Oh, I'm all about Drukhari in 8-player teams. I think they got mad upside to catch a good table, and the stuff that they're bad against, it's very face up. The things that handle Drukhari easily, you can't not see it coming.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So let's take that Necron detachment breakdown and see how wrong I was with Awakened Dynasty.
Yeah, so 19 Necron players in attendance, of which there will be 11 Star Shatter Arsenal.
This is wild in a teams event. I'll tell you, I think it's a little bit wild.
4 Awakened Dynasty, 2 Canoptic Court, 1 Obeisance Phalanx, and 1 Hypercrypt Legion. And yeah, this is the opposite of what I would expect to see.
Wow, that's way more Shatterstar than I expected. I expected Awakened to at least be closer to it. That's an insane.
Hitting with your weapons is good, I guess. They
want to kill. You know what? I can appreciate wanting to kill stuff better. I can appreciate that.
Yeah, I really want to know what the terrain format is. I assume, seeing this, it's GW format. It's Games Workshop layouts. Because on WTC, I bet my whole freaking whole everything. I'll put all my podcasts on the line that Awakened Dynasty is better on WTC terrain.
That's a lot of podcasts.
That is a whole bunch.
That's a lot of podcasts.
But yeah, I'm betting this is Games Workshop terrain. If it is WTC, maybe it's just the fact that it has less exposure in the States, and this is what people know and are practiced with at the time.
So I'm not sure the format, but one of the ways that we've been playing the team events over here is that you, if you win the table pick, the other person picks the mission that you play on that table pick. So that could have maybe a play into how this is kind of shaken out also but I still think that Awakened Dynasty is just like more insurance. But again, look, you don't need it. If you swing for the fences and hit every time, you don't need to get back up because you never go down.
Straight up, I think there's only 3 armies in the game that comfortably like take care of Awakened Dynasty. And the fact that it's 8-player teams and the chances of your opponent having all 3 of those in their lineup is already very small because one of them is Recon Guard. And, like stuff like that, it's actually I just can't see why there would be a downside to taking Awakened Dynasty. But hey, this might just be what the players who are playing on the day are good at and they're confident with. So back the players. I'm not going to say that, all 11 players are wrong, but definitely was
I'm curious. I want to see if this shakes out in the scoring, as we look at this on maybe part 2 of the show. Sometimes we do a part 2 of the show where we, for Patreon subscribers, tier 2 and above, that we look back at these events and see what won and what listed really well and the top battle point finishers of these things and critique ourselves and how well we predicted. And look, the scoreboard's going to tell the story of that as far as how this all shook out. But I believe we do have a team breakdown also.
We do. I should also let you guys know that this event is freaking stacked. There's about 4 teams that have called in international mercenaries. People like Inez Wilson, Liam VSL, Nassim Fouchain, people from some of the big heavy hitters from Europe have been flown in to, and
somebody's trying to win.
Dude, they're all on different teams, and there's a bunch of Team America WTC players that have been split across, I believe, 2 or 3 different squads as well. So
this is a very competitive area of the country and an incredibly competitive event as well that is built up over time.
Yep. And so the one we've decided to break down is Obliterati, which has, I think 2 or 3 Team USA WTC players and has Liam VSL on it, one of the best players in the world, in addition to a very strong rest of the pack. Let's start off with a Necrons, Star Shatter, Custodes, Talons of the Emperor, Astra Militarum, Hammer of the Emperor. That is David Gaylard, by the way, playing Hammer of the freaking Emperor.
I like it.
Astra Militarum. Then we have Astartes, Ultramarines, Blades of Ultramar, Tau Montcar, that is Durante, as I mentioned, and an Eldari Aspect Host, which is Liam VSL, Thousand Suns, Warforged Cabal, and an Empress Children, Carnival of Excess. So not the coterie of the Conceited there. Not even the Court of the Phoenician, which people are trying to see if that'll work with the double and triple defiler build. But that is the 8-pack, and you've probably never heard of any of these players. Bunch of strangers,
Nope, no idea. No idea who any of them are.
Never heard of them. No, never done anything notable, any of them.
No.
But yeah, this is a good 8-pack. You have the solid backbone between the Astartes, the Custodes, and the Astra Militarum. The Montcar for aggressive push plays. Aspect Host to just never get blown out, in addition to being in the hands of one of the best players in the world. And then some experimental goodness in the Warforged Cabal and the Carnival of Excess to give some X factor into the pairings matrix. I actually quite like seeing that. I like seeing, especially this late into the piece on the edition, a lot of people, there's a very lot of known quantities out there. If you're just playing the cookie cutter army, cookie cutter detachment, chances are your opponent knows exactly what to expect from a scoreline point of view between the matchup. And so always having a couple of lists in your 8-pack, especially in 8-player teams, where you just turn the cog a little bit and change some expectations, I think is always a good thing to do.
Yeah, this is like a stout stack of one we know is good players also, but this is
even the
really
factions. Like, there's no faction. The only one that I would quote unquote question is T-Suns, and And an 8-man, I don't question them with this pack especially.
Yeah, like when you go down to 5 and 6 player teams, where when you let's say you have a chaos specialist, unless they are super specialized on T-Suns, like one of the best T-Suns players out there, I would be saying please take CSM, Death Guard, one of the or even Demons, one of these very robust upside armies. CSM in particular, essentially just plays a brawler melee army that is very hard to handle with a bit of pairings preference. But Thousand Suns, if you have the player, my God, the ceiling is endless.
Oh my God. Did you see the T-Sun list?
Yeah. You want to give us the lowdown?
It's 3 Predator Annihilators, 2 Predator Destructors, 2 Vindicators, 2 Forge Fiends, 3x2 Sekatar robots, and then a couple Zangor Enlightened and Zangors. What the hell?
It's
Astra Militarum T-Suns. It's wow.
The Hammer of the Emperor list.
That's amazing.
Yeah? The full mechanized big tank guard list, going toe for toe in the pairings with that, in addition to Star Shatter, which I know in this case has Silent King and a couple of DDAs. They've actually gone for a little bit of a mechanized skew, especially of course with Blades of Ultramar packing a couple of repexes. And then Moncart usually takes triple repex, triple Riptide, of course. It's Durante, he's going to have those. They actually have like good medium tank across almost the entire line. Three Land Raiders, for example, Godhammer Land Raiders and the Custodians as well.
Well, think about that, because when you are like in teams events, especially in 8-player teams, and the players that dedicate a lot of their time and brain power to this, to create like heat maps, red, amber, and green. And when you have a list like that, Thousand Suns, people say, "Oh, I'm green into Thousand Suns," but you're not green into that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have even thought to look at that, because I would think in my head, like, I know what a Thousand Sun list is. Apparently, I have no idea.
Yeah, twice on Sunday, I'm taking out Magnus, whatever.
not a single Rubric Terminator, not a single Sorcerer. Like, wow, that's wild. Yeah. I love it. It fits so well with that team comp too.
All right, time to pick some winners, gentlemen. Dustin went first, so Paul, you're first.
Boo.
Oh my goodness. I will go with Astra Militarum.
Boo.
Nice. I'll take the Eldari and literally just back Liam VSL.
Boo. Taking all my picks.
Dustin.
I'm gonna have to be boring if you get Stardies then, because you guys picked some really good ones.
Nice.
Oh, right. Next event we're going to be talking about is the Battle to End Alzheimer's. This is in Dover, Delaware, also in the U.S. 98 players playing over 6 rounds of competition. What are we going to see?
In the Imperial Super Faction, there are 1 Imperial Agent, 2 Sisters of Battle, 1 Custode, 7 Astra Militarum, 1 Grey Knight again, 6 Imperial Knights, Space Marines, 6 Adeptus Astartes, 6 Dark Angels, 3 Space Wolves, 2 Blood Angels, 1 Black Templar, 1 Death Watch, Chaos, 8 Chaos Space Marines, 2 T-Suns, 4 Death Guard, 3 World Eaters, 4 Emperor's Children, 3 Demons, and 4 Chaos Knights. Xenos, there's 10 Necrons, 3 Orcs, 5 Tau, 5 Votan. Hive Mind, there's 5 Tyranids and 1 Gene Stealer Cult. In Eldari, there is just 3 Eldari, meaning the factory podium is Necrons at the top again with 10. Chaos Space Marines behind them with 8, and then Astra Militarum behind them with 7. This is more of a expected podium. And let's be real, like, there's still a lot of Space Marines there. There's just any single one is at 6 at the most.
Yeah.
So
there's still a lot of good spread of the Astartes here. Also some big names in attendance here, like Mark Hurdle is the Death Watch player, for example. Notably absent, no Adeptus Mechanicus and no Drukhari. In this that we need to draw some attention to. Outside that, CSM having really strong numbers here, which is the only place they had real strong numbers. Oh no, they had good numbers at the teams, coming in 4th place on our faction podium over there. But then their numbers got eaten up by the World Eaters over in the UK.
KR in chat says his buddy's running this one, so good luck to running the event this weekend.
Yeah, some really good people running this one. Long-standing, hallowed event now, been running for a couple of years for an amazing cause. We always want to give it the time of day. Apologies, I didn't do any list breakdowns or detachment breakdowns for this one, because I thought I'd finished all my stats yesterday and the list was still locked on this one. So I woke up in the morning and just slapped together what I could before I started work. So yeah,
this is, like you mentioned, this is a good one and has been around for a while. Put it on your list if you're in the area for next year, and maybe we'll shout out those factions then. But this is still, like, I know we mentioned it is a podium we might expect to see, though. But Necrons and Chaos Space Marines has not been on every podium.
No, they've been going up and down quite a lot ever since the Eye of Terror. Sorry, not the Eye of Terror, the Maelstrom release, which saw the injection of Huron's Marauders and the Renegade Warband, which really kind of elevated, similar to what the Twin Lance has done for Tau, really kind of elevated them and given them a bunch of new ways to play. And funnily enough, they're going back to a lot of what they were doing at the start of 2025 with Creations of Bile when they came out in Grotmus, and everyone was windmill slamming AC/DC, Possessed and Chosen. Very similar now with a different kind of bag of tricks, but similar kind of play patterns and play style, which in singles play has a lot of upsides, have a lot of downsides. Of course, you always want to go first in singles play with that army almost always. Whereas in teams play, it really has a lot of agency when you can just dodge, like I said, those 1 or 2 matchups. It really goes absolutely off.
Well, let's pick some winners. What do we think is taking this thing down?
So on my pick first, I'm just going to be lame and go Necrons.
That is very lame.
It is.
Trying to get points, trying to win these months.
So that would mean Dustin next.
I don't want to do it again. I'm not going to do it again.
You don't want to triple Astartes.
No, I do not. That is lamer than lame. I want. You know what? I'll go Tyranids. Let's do that.
Tyranids. That's solid. I'll go Emperor's Children.
That was very unenthusiastic. That's solid, Paul. I didn't believe that for a second.
No, I think you're getting like that's optimism.
Optimism, yes.
Love it. That's it.
Oh, all right. That's the portion of the 40K stuff this week. Y'all did a Fuego that had 40K in it 2 weeks ago, and I missed it. But we're getting to the portion of the show that sometimes has very little to do with 40K. This is the palette cleanser after we've been talking about a bunch of stats, a bunch of winning, a bunch of losing, the meta, the ups and downs. And now we a little bit of that palette cleanser I'm talking about is a segment we call the Flagrant Repeato, which sometimes has very little to do with Warhammer 40,000 and all to do with the fun. Sometimes just some nudging of whatever the topic.
Okay.
We're all waiting with bated breath.
Paul has exploded.
He has exploded.
10,000 people will spontaneously combust every year. I heard it on Spinal Tap.
It just happened. Now you got it. Now you got it live. We got it recorded live. Okay. Well,
sweet. So Fuego time. Usually you got nothing to do with 40K. Paul's miffed that he missed out on the actual 40K one. It looks like he's back.
Are you back?
I was talking to myself there for about 20
seconds.
Yeah,
you're talking to yourself for a while there. Sorry about that.
I was on a roll. Sorry.
Yeah, it was probably the greatest intro and segue that we've ever heard on the show.
Look, people check us out. This is where the part where we're going to advertise ourselves a little bit. Check us out on Patreon. Make sure to click those like, shares, and subscribe if you haven't already. It's about to get silly.
Let's do it.
It's not silly at all. What are you talking about?
Oh.
We got to continue. We got to continue now that we're all here again. We had
Your
a break.
takes are silly. That's what it is.
That's true. That's very true. But we do need to get back into this because we had a break, and now we need to do the best survival horror game of all time.
No.
Now, this one might be spicy. I know Adam's got some really strong opinions on the best survival horror games. So we'll see how this one goes. I'm not actually sure. Let's just start it off with Resident Evil 2 versus Alone in the Dark.
I think Alone in the Dark's got beat Resident Evil 2.
Really?
Yeah.
But I will say this is the Resident Evil we chose to take this, so there is not another Resident Evil.
Well,
yeah.
So I'm taking Resident Evil here.
Okay, all right. So Alone in the Dark, I think, was one of the first times. Well, one, you had a really cool mythos. It was a mythos game, right? Like you had cool things. That was the first time you got to see that. And the reason I said over Resident Evil 2 is because you didn't necessarily jump from your TV during Resident Evil 2 because you were already expecting how that was going to go down. Even though it is a better game and I think gave you better ammunition. It was more.
I give a lot of respect to Alone in the Dark for sure, because Alone in the Dark is a fantastic game, but compared to Resident Evil, it's just I can't. I gotta go Resident Evil.
Yeah,
I'm glad Alone in the Dark is getting a vote though.
Me too. I still have no idea how those herbs undo being bitten by a zombie, but I'm glad that they were there.
I've seen those YouTube shorts too. Make me laugh every time. 2-1 for Resident Evil. All right. Next up, Dead Space versus Dead by Daylight.
Ooh.
I don't think I played Dead by Daylight.
Dead by Daylight is actually pretty cool. It's the multiplayer one where one player plays like a murderer and then chases around the other 4 people. It's interesting. It's.
Well, that sounds good.
It's fun. It is actually fun. I think replayability Dead by Daylight is way better than Dead Space, but as a game, I think Dead Space is better.
Well, I'm going to go Dead by Daylight because I think it's a much more unique game and was a brand new take on multiplayer experience. Whereas, unfortunately, Dead Space was kind of just another one of the same.
Yeah.
One of my favorite board games of all time is Betrayal at the House on the Hill, to where you start playing as a group of, basically like kid explorers, like Scooby-Doo gang, and then about midway through the game, and the whole game takes about an hour, one of you turns into the bad guy and has to there's like 50 scenarios where you become some creature from the void or whatever to hunt your buddies, and it's a cool concept. So it's got my vote.
So you're voting for Dead by Daylight too?
Yes.
Okay. I think it's a 3-0 for Dead by Daylight, to be honest, because Dead Space is great, but like Adam said, it's kind of a rehash, I think.
It's much of the same. Didn't really add anything extra to the genre.
Yeah. Next up, Left 4 Dead versus Outlast.
Left 4 Dead.
I think Left 4 Dead, yeah.
Left 4
Easy.
Dead. Left 4 Dead is a definite contender to win this for sure.
Yeah.
Next up, Until Dawn and Phasmophobia. This is Until Dawn for me. Until Dawn is absolutely incredible. I love that game.
I did not play these two.
Oh,
was that
the chat's might have to help us with this one?
Is there an older one of Until Dawn, or is it just the 2025 one?
Until Dawn there's not an older one, but it's made by the same guys that did like I can't remember the name of it. Was it
because I just want to make sure I'm thinking of the right game.
It's the one where you're at the cottage.
Yeah,
you play the different people, and depending on what you do, like it might actually some people will get killed, and
I'm 100%.
It's a horror mystery too.
It's fantastic.
It's so good. So we're gonna do that 3-0 for that one. Then you're voting for that one, Paul.
It sounds good.
Everything from what you said, you would actually love this game. So,
I believe you. I do trust you.
All right, next up, Silent 2 versus Five Nights at Freddy's.
Silent 2.
Come on, Five Nights at Freddy's. Oh, where's your Silent 2 movie?
Wow.
Where's your Matthew Lillard?
Because the first movie was so good, they had to make another one. It was just all the Gen Zers flocking to the nostalgia.
Yeah. Five Nights at Freddy's was fun, but I wouldn't consider it.
It's just a jump scare. That's all
it
was.
It captivated an entire generation.
Did it?
You're saying Silent Hill didn't? You're saying Silent Hill didn't?
I'm saying, okay, multi-generational.
There's like I said, I'm giving Five Nights at Freddy's. Yes, you're cool, but there's no way is it beating Silent Hill. Like there's just absolutely no way.
Yeah,
no way.
Well, I'm happy you got a vote because we are old curmudgeons in this conversation. So I like to respect the new generation weaker games, but
I really think that the breakoutness of Five Nights at Freddy's is one of those things that it really gives it an edge here. But I think for a horror game,
if Gen Zers could not stream it on Twitch, I don't think Five Nights at Freddy's would have made a drop in the ocean. To be frank,
that's a good point. That is a very.
I don't think if they could show people pull stupid faces and let people look at them goofing out as they get jump scared, I don't think Five Nights at Freddy's would have touched the sides.
Yeah, it's true. Twitch and everything made that game popular.
Silent Hill needs no Twitch.
I know the effect it has had, on the world out there, which I think is greater than Silent Hill. But I do think Silent Hill is one of those pivotal things that got people into this genre.
I mean, what is even the story of Five Nights at Freddy's? Like, it's just absurd. It's up there with like Ninja Turtles for how absurd the storyline is.
That's easy there, Adam. Easy.
Easy. Ninja Turtles is one of the best and greatest things ever. But you can't tell me the origin story of the Ninja Turtles is not absolutely buck wild. That's
what story do you need other than mutagen?
Yeah, mutagen
Ninja
makes
Turtles,
everything. It
like
makes sense for
Bing
everything.
Bang Boom, you know?
Yeah, so
It's like Wizard did it, you know. Mutagen did it. That's the whole thing.
A dude dropped a canister
Whoops.
of freaking radioactive goo, where 4 turtles in New York just kind of all fell into it. While a rat that learned the martial arts in Japan made its way to New York, found the turtles, and trained them as ninjas.
Adam, don't ruin my childhood.
Let me ask you a question.
I'm not ruining anything. It's
Is
beautiful.
it the quantity of turtles that you're hung up on?
Yeah, it was because there was 4 turtles and the rat. That was
if it was 3 turtles.
Ratio.
The ratio was the
no, it's literally the rat. It's the rat that gets me.
But the rat is the one that makes sense in the sewers in New York.
No, how did it learn martial? How did the rat learn martial arts and then get its ass to New York?
Listen,
if you just watch the movie, you'll learn.
You never know
what happened.
The rat could be lying for all you know. It just says it knows martial arts. How are they going to know any different?
Ninja Turtles was one of the most formative and still one of the most formative things that's ever happened in my life as far as like a thing I've experienced. But even as a 4-year-old, I was like, that's pretty dumb.
You're not winning this argument if you're saying that Five Nights at Freddy's can't be awesome because the turtles exist.
No. I'm saying they're similar in ridiculousness. And maybe that, what I was trying to say is maybe that is the Ninja Turtles of Gen Z, is Five Nights at Freddy's.
Wow, I don't think it's that far, but
they all had different. All the robots had different colors, just like the Anyway, whatever. Let's move on.
Right. All right. Next one: The Last of Us versus The Evil Within. Last of Us.
Last of Us.
Yeah. We have. I can already see 3 here that I expect to. I could expect to win this thing.
And for me, here's another one: Alien Isolation versus Alan Wake.
Alien freaking Isolation.
Alien Isolation is that one has that game is the only one that gave me as many like chilling moments. Like actually got me that immersed in it. That was so good.
It managed to capture everything that was amazing about the first Alien movie,
exactly,
and then put you in the driver's seat of it. Best Alien game they've ever made. And some people even say the best Alien film made.
It's a horror movie, and that's what the newest Alien movie was more like a horror film than it was a sci-fi film, and that got it kind of threw you back to that.
Less Starship Troopers, more back to its roots.
I think Aliens was the one that did it, and none of the other ones should have done it that way because it was a horror franchise for the most part, and then they did it once and it was amazing.
But Aliens is epic. I mean, we could quote half the movie right now. You know, like it's absolutely epic. But it was not. It was more of a sci-fi movie than a horror movie. Whereas, like we got into it because it was originally a horror movie kind of thing.
Yep, for sure. Last in round 1 is Amnesia: Dark Descent versus Dino Crisis.
Oh, Dino Crisis, so good.
Dino Crisis was pretty good.
But I believe
Dino Crisis. Then.
I was going to give vote to Amnesia because it is one of these. It is rated as the scariest game ever made, and so it deserves a vote at a minimum.
Is that the one that have where you're kind of like almost like coming in and out of consciousness on the screen? Is that the one?
Yeah, pretty much. And I believe it's the one where you're in kind of like the deserted castle, and you're just trying to find out what the hell is going on. As you negotiate traps and monsters, and you're completely unarmed, and very much similar to that Silent Hill-esque, where you just feel impotent in the face of absolute horror.
I'm still going with Dino Crisis.
That's fair. Dino Crisis is awesome, but vote for Amnesia from Adam.
Yeah, okay, we'll put Dino Crisis in 2-1. All right, round 2: Resident Evil versus Dead by Daylight.
Resident Evil.
Yeah, I'm going Resident Evil.
Yeah, Resident Evil. You made it to the second round, Dead by Daylight. You should be proud. But
yeah, just because it was a different take on the genre, it did something new and fresh and sexy.
Yeah, counts. That counts.
It absolutely does. And bringing horror to the multiplayer, I think, is a step towards something cool and brand new.
Yeah. Left 4 Dead versus Until Dawn. Ooh,
that's Left 4 Dead. Left 4 Dead for me.
Yeah, I think Left 4 Dead is.
Yeah, I'm giving Until Dawn a vote for sure because it's
good. Yeah.
Everyone says, "Haven't forgiven us for where aliens turned up on the footage."
It made it pretty far, didn't it?
Don't worry, we haven't forgiven each other for many things that have happened.
Oh yeah, no, our friendship is beyond tested and ruined.
I got PMs telling me I was wrong.
Well, wait till they see this one. There's more coming.
We are impacting the cultural zeitgeist right here. Anyway,
yeah.
Continue.
Next up, Silent Hill 2 versus The Last of Us.
This is tough. So, The Last of Us again. You know, I'm a fan of the ones that break out of the just the video game. And then The Last of Us, if I remember correctly, I think they have Warhammer like kind of featured in the game.
Yep, they do. I mean,
it's gonna
sway that vote.
Yep, it's got me.
I'm voting for Silent Hill because it deserves a vote, but Last of Us is better.
Yeah, Last of Us is definitely winning this, but I'm okay with giving Silent Hill a vote for sure.
Yeah.
Alien Isolation versus Dino Crisis. Alien Isolation.
Alien Isolation. Yeah.
All right, we're into the semifinals then.
This is gonna suck.
Resident Evil versus Left 4 Dead.
Left 4 Dead.
I mean, Resident Evil is like.
So the genre doesn't exist, in my opinion, without Resident Evil and Silent Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two.
Alone in the Dark came out before that. You know, like.
Yeah, I don't think Alone in the Dark brought it to the mainstream like the other two games did.
Fair enough, yeah.
Yeah, Alone in the Dark was like the primogenitor, and then those two spurred off, and then it became bang. And of course, this was during the peak of like the console craze during the N64 and the PlayStation. So they really caught fire then.
Silent Hill spawned a bunch of cosplay stuff and everything too. It's like
still does, yeah. Yep, still going out, seeing triangle heads all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for me. Yeah.
Why Left 4 Dead? You didn't really explain that part. You boasted Resident Evil and then Left 4 Dead.
It's a better game. It's built upon the foundations of what the others set, and is just a straight up better game, better play experience. The controls aren't effed like they were for the Resident Evil things. Why am I running perpetually into the wall while the zombies hitting me? It was just very, very poorly built for analog. And yes, while it laid the foundations, there are games that have built upon it and become better.
Okay, I could go with that.
What are you guys voting? Well, you just
he just blamed the controller. That's what
it's always the controller's fault. What you voted for Resident Evil, Paul?
Yeah.
I have to go with Left 4 Dead. It pains me because Resident Evil belongs here, but Left 4 Dead is just a better play experience. Is the best way to put it. I hate this one.
That's because y'all picked Resident Evil 2. If we picked Resident Evil 1.
We put 2 because we agreed that was the best one to compare it to. So
I'm messing with you.
Yeah, I told you about the full weekend when I rented the game and spent the whole time trying to beat Apocalypse in Resident Evil 2. I spent a full weekend trying to figure out how to win that fight, and it's actually.
I actually argue
that tells you
4 is better. I like Resident Evil 4.
Tells you so much of what you need to know about me as a person.
Okay, this is the one that's going to hurt the most, guys. Last of Us versus Alien Isolation.
I think Last of Us.
I'm going to go Alien Isolation.
I hate both of you.
Yeah, well, you should have spoken quicker.
You got to vote faster.
You got to vote faster, dude.
Less hurt feelings.
Do we want to make our case before Dustin?
Yeah, I want to hear you guys' cases for this. That's the benefit of not voting first, at least.
So Last of Us, it really had that like the emotional hanging points on it that I think that really drew people in and became almost like a mini phenomenon in and of itself.
I will say in Last of Us's favor, it had much more of an emotive element into it. You bought in so much more to the story. But Alien Isolation is, in my opinion, the best pure survival horror of all time. As in just boiling down what we're voting on, I think Alien Isolation, no other game hits the brief harder.
It's true. In terms of a survival horror, like that is Alien Isolation.
But is it fun?
In a way that terrifies you.
While your hands shake, and you see the alien walk past you, and you're like, "Oh no!" You're like,
if you need to be reminded of what is, the grim isolation of being hunted by an alien.
You're hiding behind a cardboard box.
These are two of the few games that have actually elicited outright like loud emotions for me during the gameplay. Last of Us got me angry at the end.
I both was angry and cried during the playthrough of The Last of Us.
Wow.
But my hand shook a lot during Alien Isolation.
I think I have to go, because this is survival horror, I'm going with Alien Isolation.
Solid picks.
But Last of Us is, God, is that ever good? All right, then last up is Left 4 Dead versus Alien Isolation. And I'm sorry, but if Alien Isolation beat Last of Us, Left 4 Dead has no chance.
Yeah, that's my agreement. Yeah,
sounds good to me. It's a clean sweep there at the end.
Fair, we did it.
That's it. We did it.
Yeah,
Alien Isolation, best survival horror game ever made, and that I think that's completely fair.
And guess what? We only fought about Ninja Turtles, so we did well.
Yeah, we did really well.
Dorian's coming in with a late vote for Five Nights at Freddy's.
That's too late. Got Silent Hill round one. It's too late. Five Nights is gone.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. That is our show this week. We'll be back next week for another edition of the Meta Chasers, where we are looking at the biggest and best tournaments happening all over the world. I'm really glad we could be back hanging out with everybody here live, and also leave us some comments and let us know exactly what you would have voted as number one here in this segment if you made it this far. And if you did make it this far, please also hit that subscribe button if you have not already. Leave us those 5-star reviews. It has been a pleasure. Gentlemen, I will see y'all next week.
We'll see you next week.
Good night.